We welcome Riona Naidu, the head of marketing solutions at Experian. Experian is a silver sponsor at this year's CEM 2017. Would like to hand over the microphone and find out if there's any opening comments that you would like to make with regards to why Experian have sponsored the event this year.
Thank you, Nilias. So, Experian has sponsored the event this year because we launched our marketing solutions offering in South Africa. And the aim is to see what else is going on in the market around customer experience in terms of delegates' lives and other sponsors, but then also to kind of highlight and create some brand awareness of what we're bringing to the party around this topic as well.
Perfect. And from the sponsorship this year, what sort of expectations do Experian have as an outcome from the CEM 2017?
Just to get a sense of where the South African market, in terms of organizations and other businesses, are actually playing in, where we find struggles are occurring in the bigger space in terms of how do we understand which customers we're targeting, how do we measure, how do we manage. I think the aim for us to kind of get a better sense of what our clients are not only telling us, but what the market is telling us at the same time.
Perfect, and that's key in terms of the business development side and engaging with your customers. And what a better place to have access to many customers this week. Thank you very much for the sponsorship. In terms of the digital forces that are currently disrupting the world in terms of AI, virtual reality, the engagement side of things, of work and affecting how staff, as in the customers and their staff, are engaging with their customers. How do you see moving forwards the customer engagement within various brands?
So before we go into the whole staff discussion, the staff are consumers in essence, right? So let's just take that. The consumer market and people are moving into a place where, if you look at all the new studies that are done around digital engagement and the rest, we're becoming a bit more isolated at the same time that we're becoming very more social. It's a parity. And so what's interesting is there's some studies around the world, and there's one in particular that talks about that the future generations are becoming less and less inept to distinguish what emotions we're getting out. So when you look at somebody, you can't really tell whether they're happy or not and the rest. So if you think about that's the future generation that's coming out of staff, or that will be our staff in the future, it becomes very interesting to know, well, then how do we now engage with each other going forward, right? So I think one of the biggest challenges is to kind of figure out, how do we still create a sense of community? How can we look at our customers and understand them? And then I guess where data, technology, information, insights all start playing a bigger role into it, because people want to know what sentiment is now in social media. We analyze it all the time. So how do we, and again, looking at it from a consumer view first, and then realizing that those consumers are also going to become our staff, and how do we create some sort of channels in which they can engage properly? So technology has affected consumers, therefore it will affect our staff. We've got a lot of bad or great customer experiences. People post this all the time. I've had great customer experiences. The service levels where the contact center understood me. I think we're noticing that this is a very touchy point at the moment, and how we actually create an environment that allows staff and consumers to relate, even though they're on the other sides of the fence. I think, that's where we are.
Absolutely, and we're all very familiar with Hello Peter, which is a very, very popular site in terms of listening in. And that leads on to the next question, which, with the advent of big data and the consumption of big data now, and the embracing of big data within large organizations that are customers of yours, from an organizational perspective, how do you see bringing emotion into the interactions with customers progressing into the future?
I think emotion is important. We breathe and live off energy from everybody. From a business perspective to the consumer perspective. Like you said, mentioned just Hello Peter. One of the interesting points is people say that South Africans are very polite. So they will go in, have an experience, and if the experience is not great, they don't necessarily make a noise at the time. They go away and then decide not to do business with you again. That is not the way you grow a business. That is not the way in order to measure. So it's very important to make sure we understand what emotions our consumers have. It's also important to understand what emotion we're kind of breathing out as a brand and as a business. And measuring that is, I think, where we're going. And we're using all these great technology stacks and data. I'm always going to pick on data. That's the business I'm in. But with a purpose to understand emotion and how emotion plays a role. I think that's our challenge, and I think that's a theme you're going to get in the conference as well. Is yes, we're engaging, we're building customer journeys, and we're mapping, and that's all very important. But how do we measure the emotion that comes out of it? Saying back to the point of South Africans are generally polite as consumers, yeah?
So, in terms of the politeness, technology is evolving at a really rapid rate at the moment. So, being able to gauge the emotion of your particular customer becomes more and more critical to contextualize the engagement. Do you see that technology at the moment is actually ripe to actually provide that level of commitment in the CX world to be able to allow the interaction to become more contextual?
I think so. You know, but we're at different levels of maturity on that same scale, if that makes any sense. And so the challenge is, I mean, look at us 5 years ago and that question, and we'd say, yes, we're making headways. Now we've got other kinds of technologies that are analyzing sentiment and all of that great stuff. And 5 years from now, we're going to be in a probably better space. We'll look at your picture and we'll look at this video and we'll analyze how your muscles are moving and say, well, you know, that's what's going on. I think the best that we can do right now, for example, from our business perspective, which I'm going to pick on, is we started segmenting according to engagement preferences for South Africans. 2 years ago, even last year, we weren't in that position. So it kind of shows how quickly it's growing, though. So this year, that's where we are. Next year, where could it be? Once we've segmented on engagement, what's next? So, I mean, there's lots of opportunity, but I think we're really in the race, if anything.
So, Riona, if I understand you correctly, technology is definitely providing the platform to be able to carry out these types of engagements and the analysis that is required to make a better concise decision in terms of the interaction. My last question to you is in terms of the organizations finding out and anticipating what the modern, really complicated customer deems valuable, in order to optimize their experience. Do we still have a long way to go, or is the light at the end of the tunnel a lot closer than we think it is?
So, not to be too cliched, but if anyone knows me, they know I'm a very cliche person. Keep it simple, right? And when I say that, it is, we always have the answer. If I don't ask, I will never know. And I think we've gone through a different way in the last couple of years because we rely so much on technology to subtly get information out of people. There are some brilliant startups in the States that I've noticed who have developed apps that allow consumers to answer questions. So just ask me, do I like this? How do I feel about that? There is a market that's willing to share. But I think we try to complicate it to say we need to put technology in to secretly find out. There is also that feeling that, you know, there's that other saying that goes through that says, ask people what they want to do, and they say, well, they'll be healthy, they eat fruits and they veg. Watch what they do, and they buy all the sweets in the shop. So we kind of need to create a balance of asking people what they want and how they want to be treated and what engagement they expect. But I think balancing it out with also observing what really happens in order to get that middle truth.
Great. So if I hear you correctly then, asking the right questions could lead to a better engagement all round with any customer out there. Is that pretty much it?
I think that's pretty much it. If you look at all the engagements you have, I always used to pick in previous conversations, take your wallet out, show me how many loyalty cards you have. Now I ask people, take out your phone, show me how apps you have, right? We're communicating all the time. You said it perfectly. It's asking the right questions in order to make sure that you get the response that allows you to make the decisions that you need to make.
We'd like to thank you and Experian for the sponsorship here at the CEM 2017. I think it's going to be an exciting 2 days. We've had the awards last night. The next 2 days are going to be extremely exciting, and I'd be very glad to come and actually speak to you further at your stand at the CEM 2017. Any closing comments that you would like to make?
We really appreciate being considered to be part of CM. It's a network of important people at the end of the day, talking about big things that affect customer experience and customer management. So don't take it lightly that we are a sponsor. We do appreciate the opportunity to be a part of a clearly illustrious organization.
Thank you to Experian, and thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Great.